My name is Brandon. I'm 27, I work in a car repair shop, and I used to live in a small beat-up apartment above a diner in a quiet part of North Carolina. I don't have a fancy college degree. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I know when I've been played, and I know how to play back. Growing up, my brother Nathan was the golden child. Anything he wanted, he got. New bike? Dad bought it for him the same day. Wanted to quit school and figure things out? Dad gave him a loan and said, "Follow your dreams, son." Me? I was the one cleaning dishes, mowing lawns, and working 2 jobs to pay for community college. My mom passed away when I was 12, and ever since, it was just the 3 of us, Dad, Nathan, and me. Our dad, Gerald, owned a few properties and ran a plumbing business in a small town called Rydell Hills. Not some high-end place, just regular folks trying to make ends meet. Dad had always said that everything he worked for would be split fair and square between me and Nathan one day. I believed him. Foolish me. A few months ago, Dad called us both to his house, well, technically the house I grew up in but hadn't been invited to for Christmas in 5 years. He said he had something important to tell us. Nathan strolled in late wearing designer sunglasses and holding a half-empty coffee from some overpriced cafe in the city. I came in after work, still in my grease-stained uniform, smelling like engine oil. Dad sat us down in the living room. Same old couch, same old faded curtains. I could feel something in the air. It was heavy like one of those hot summer days before a storm. "I've decided it's time to start giving things away while I'm still around," Dad said. Nathan leaned back like he already knew what was coming. I sat forward, hoping maybe this was the moment things would finally be fair. That maybe, for once, Dad would see me. "I'm giving Nathan the house," Dad said, like he was reading off a shopping list. My heart stopped. "What?" I asked, blinking. "You're giving him the house? The whole house?" Dad nodded, smiling proudly like he'd just handed out candy. "He's settling down," he said. "He needs a place. You've always managed to get by, Brandon. You're the strong one." "But this is our house," I said, my voice cracking. "Mom's house? You said—" "I know what I said," he cut me off. "But things change. You'll be all right." Then, like it was some kind of joke, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I got this for you," he said, handing it to me. It was a lottery ticket. Powerball. I looked at it like it was a prank. Nathan was grinning. "You're giving him a house," I said slowly, "and giving me a chance?" "A chance to be lucky," Dad said with a shrug. "Life's a gamble, son." I didn't say a word. I just took the ticket and walked out. That night, I sat in my little apartment, staring at the numbers. I watched the drawing alone, eating leftover fries from the diner downstairs. One number matched, then another, then another. When the 6th number hit, I felt my soul leave my body. $244 million. I triple-checked the ticket. I paced. I laughed. I cried. I threw up. Then I laughed again. $244 million. After taxes, it would still be over $140 million in my name. Suddenly, everything changed. And no one knew, not Dad, not Nathan, not a soul. I didn't even quit my job at the repair shop. I showed up the next day like nothing had happened. But something had happened, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's slow, quiet, patient. Like dripping water wearing down a stone, I didn't want to scream at my father or fight my brother. I didn't want them to know I'd won. Not yet. I wanted to teach them what it feels like to be dismissed, to be treated like a backup, to be pitied when you're the one holding all the cards. I started with a fake name. I hired a lawyer, a good one, the kind that makes crooked politicians sweat. I set up a trust, shell companies, the whole deal. The lawyer said, "Are you sure you want this much secrecy?" And I said, "I want to be a ghost with a checkbook." I bought land just outside Rydell Hills. in a place barely anyone had heard of, Deerbrush Hollow. It was an overgrown dump, but I paid cash and rebuilt it into a stunning private estate with stone walls, a man-made lake, and smart tech in every room. But no one knew it was mine. My name wasn't on anything. Then I bought the diner under a fake company named the same one under my apartment. I fixed it up, raised wages for all the workers, and added a full-time cook. The regulars loved it. Dad came in one morning, sat at a table by the window. He didn't recognize the staff, or the fact that they no longer called him sir like they used to. They just served him coffee and moved on. No one gave him special treatment. He looked confused. I watched from upstairs, sipping tea and smiling. But it wasn't just about watching him squirm. I had a plan. A long one. Next, I approached Nathan. He'd been trying to start some real estate venture using Dad's house as collateral. The banks weren't biting, so I sent in one of my people posing as a potential investor. They met in a hotel downtown. Nathan came in cocky, waving his phone like a weapon. "So what do you think?" he asked. "We flip properties fast. Real money in a year." The fake investor smiled politely. "Looks promising," he said. "Who owns the house?" "My dad does," Nathan admitted. "But he's transferring the deed. It's just paperwork." My guy nodded, but the deal quietly failed. Just enough to shake Nathan's confidence. I did this 2 more times. Each time, my guy offered a deal, then vanished at the last minute. Nathan started getting desperate. "And Dad?" He noticed. He began calling me more. Not to apologize, though, just to ask for help around the house. Fix the boiler, trim the hedges. I always said I was busy. "Too bad you didn't get the house," he said once, laughing. "This yard work would have been yours." I smiled and said, "Guess I wasn't lucky enough." But I was. I was so lucky. A few weeks later, something happened that made everything spiral faster. Nathan crashed his new car. It wasn't insured. The front was wrecked. He was fine, physically, but the car had been bought on credit, and the bills were piling up. He called Dad, who was already stressing about rising repair bills on the old house. Heating had stopped working. The water pressure was weird. "I need a loan," Nathan said during dinner one night. "I know because I was watching them through the restaurant's new security cameras installed during renovations I paid for. They were seated right below one." "I gave you the house," Dad said, angry. "Figure it out." "I am figuring it out," Nathan snapped. "But everything keeps falling apart." Dad sighed. "Talk to your brother. He always makes things work." Nathan didn't like that. His jaw clenched. His eyes narrowed. He hadn't spoken to me in weeks, maybe months. The last time we did, he'd made a joke about how I should have used the lottery ticket to wipe my tears. But that night, that was the night he showed up at my door. I heard the knock. I opened the door and saw him wet from the rain, eyes tired, looking like a kicked puppy. "Hey," he said, trying to smile. "Got a minute?" I let him in. And that's when he made a mistake. He said something that changed everything. Something that lit a fuse in my chest. "You've always been the safe one," he said. "I knew Dad would give me the house, but I figured you'd get something too. Guess I didn't think he'd actually give you nothing." I didn't speak. He smiled. That same smug smirk from the living room all those months ago. "But hey," he said, "you're still working at that greasy shop, right? At least you're consistent." I was quiet for a moment. Then I stood up, walked to my safe behind a painting, and opened it. Inside was the winning ticket. I took it out, held it up. His eyes widened. And that's when the power cut out. Total blackout, silence, darkness, then a distant pop outside. I looked at Nathan. He looked at me. And something was coming, something big. We just didn't know what yet. The room was pitch black. Only the sound of rain tapping against the windows and the quiet hum of my refrigerator dying echoed in the silence. Nathan froze. the shadow of the lottery ticket still etched in his wide eyes. What was that?" he stammered. I didn't move. I was still holding the ticket in my hand, letting him sit in the silence with the image of it. It was like his brain couldn't process what he had just seen. The lights flickered for a second and then fully died again. I walked past him, calm as a lake, and grabbed a flashlight from the drawer in the kitchen. "Transformer probably blue," I said. "Happens around here when it rains heavy." Nathan was still in the living room, standing stiff, his eyes bouncing between me and the now dark safe behind the wall. "That's the ticket," he finally whispered. You won." I didn't answer. I just stared at him. He stepped forward, the fake charm slowly melting from his face. "You won the Powerball?" Silence. "For real?" Still silence. "You're joking, right?" He laughed nervously. "That's not real. You're screwing with me. Dad gave me the house, man. No way you won that kind of money. That's not how this works." I sat down, placed the ticket on the table between us, and just said, $244 million. He backed into the couch and sat down hard, like the weight of that number punched him in the chest. "Holy! After taxes," I added, "still enough to buy 10 houses, maybe 50 of the one Dad gave you." The flashlight sat between us now, casting shadows across the walls. Nathan stared at me like I was a ghost, like someone who'd come back from the dead. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at the table. Then, finally, he whispered, "Does Dad know?" I shook my head. "No one does." And that's when the look on his face changed. From shock to calculation. His mouth twitched. His eyes flickered, like gears were turning inside his head. We could, he leaned forward. "You could help me, man. I've been struggling. You know how much pressure Dad puts on me. That house, it's falling apart. The loans, the car." I raised a hand to stop him. "You laughed in my face when Dad handed me a lottery ticket and gave you the house," I said flat. "You said I should use it to wipe my tears." "I didn't mean it," he snapped. "I was just kidding." "You meant it." He stood up and started pacing. "Come on, Brandon, don't do this. I'm your brother, we're blood." "And what's blood worth, Nathan?" I asked. "You and Dad made it clear what I was worth." He stopped moving. The silence returned. Then he reached for the ticket. Fast. Like a snake, but I was faster. I grabbed it and slid it back into the safe. Locked it. "Don't," I said quietly. "That's not a move you want to make." He raised both hands like I had a weapon. Okay, I get it. I didn't think you'd really win." "No one did," I replied. "And that's the point." Nathan stayed for another few minutes, mostly mumbling apologies and half-baked ideas about partnering and investing together. But I didn't say yes. I didn't say no either. I just let him talk and then showed him the door. "I'll call you," he said, trying to sound casual as he left. I didn't answer. He didn't call. Not for 3 weeks. But Dad did. "I heard you and Nathan had a talk," he said on the phone, voice curious but distant, like he was digging for info without asking directly. "Yeah." He stopped by. "What was it about?" "Just catching up," I lied. There was a pause. "You sure?" "Why wouldn't I be?" Dad didn't reply for a moment. "Because he's acting weird," he finally said. "Wants me to put the house in his name now. Keep saying something about a big opportunity." "Sounds like Nathan," I said flatly. Dad grunted. "He's not the brightest, but he means well." I didn't say anything. "You've always been different, Brandon," he added. "Always handled things on your own. I respected that." I wanted to yell at him, to tell him he had a funny way of showing respect. But I didn't. I held the anger in. "Thanks," I said instead, "but I'm good now, better than ever." And I meant it. Over the next month, I made moves. Quiet ones. I bought out the strip mall down by 9th Street, the one Nathan had tried to get into. I put money into fixing the community center in Rydell Hills. I paid off the medical debt of over 100 families in town anonymous donations, made to look like charity grants. People started talking about some angel investor helping the town. Nathan started getting paranoid. He was always on edge, twitchy, asking around about who's buying up everything. One day, he stormed into the diner, yelling at the manager, demanding to know who the new owner was. The manager, bless her heart, just smiled and handed him a receipt for his coffee. Dad wasn't doing any better. The house he gave Nathan started having real problems. Mold in the basement, roof leaks, pipes bursting. The plumbing company he ran had lost 2 big contracts and was barely keeping above water. I knew. I bought out those contracts and moved them to another company I quietly controlled. The pressure was building, but then came the big moment. The moment I had been waiting for. Dad called and said he was selling the house. He couldn't afford the repairs. The taxes were higher now, and Nathan wasn't paying a dime. He asked me if I could help out. He didn't know I owned nearly half the town. Didn't know the lawyer handling the house sale worked for me. Didn't know the buyer I sent was my own employee. So I told him, "Sure, I'll help." He lit up. Knew I could count on you. A week later, I bought the house. And that night, I showed up at the front door. Nathan opened it, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "What do you want?" he grumbled. I held up a key. "This is my house now," I said. He laughed. "What are you talking about?" I stepped inside. "No, really," he said. "You're messing with me, right?" I handed him a letter. Official. Signed, sealed. Nathan tore it open and read the words. His face turned pale. This says you bought it. How?" I didn't answer. "Did Dad sell it to you?" "He didn't know it was me," I said calmly. "Why?" he whispered. "Why would you do this?" I looked around the house. The old living room. The staircase Mom used to decorate every Christmas. The place they said would never be mine. "Because I could," I said. And then I dropped the second envelope. Nathan picked it up slowly. Opened it. Inside was a single notice. "Eviction." He looked at me. His mouth open but no words coming out. "You have 30 days, I said. Nathan stumbled back, almost tripping on the couch. "You're kicking me out?" I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I just turned and walked out the front door. As I got in my car, I saw Dad's truck pulling into the driveway. And that's when the next extreme thing happened. Dad stepped out of the truck holding a briefcase. He looked serious, like a man who just realized he'd made a terrible mistake. He wasn't here to talk. He was here to fight. And he was about to find out just how deep my revenge went. Dad slammed the truck door harder than necessary. The briefcase in his hand looked like it had been pulled out of storage old leather, scratched edges, something from his plumbing days. But the look on his face wasn't the look of a businessman. It was the look of a man who finally realized he'd backed the wrong horse and was trying to cover his tracks. He marched toward me like a storm. "Brandon!" he shouted. I didn't flinch. I stood by the hood of my car, arms crossed, calm as ever. "Is it true?" he barked, getting up in my face. "You bought the house?" I stared at him, then nodded once. "Yes." He stepped back, blinking like I'd slapped him. "You bought it from me?" "No," I said. "I bought it from the lawyer you hired, the one who found you a buyer. That buyer worked for me." His mouth opened, then closed. His eyes darted back to the briefcase in his hand. "Why?" he said softly. "Why would you go behind my back like that?" "You gave the house to Nathan," I replied. "You gave me a lottery ticket. That ticket was worth $200 million. You didn't know that when you handed it to me." He looked down. Guilty. That was rare. Real rare. "I did what I thought was right," he mumbled. "Nathan needed a place. And I needed a father," I said. His head shot up. Ever since Mom died, I continued, you acted like I was just. Filler, the kid who didn't complain, you thought I could handle anything. So you handed Nathan the easy life and handed me nothing, even when I worked twice as hard. His voice cracked. I didn't mean to. But you did, I interrupted. You meant every bit of it. And now the house is mine. So is the land under it. So is the diner you sit in every Tuesday morning. So is the plumbing contract you lost last month. All of it. He looked stunned. You did all this? You planned this? Yes, I said. He staggered a bit, like the truth weighed more than he could carry. Nathan came running out of the house. He's evicting me, Dad, he shouted. He's throwing me out. Dad turned to me. You can't do that, Brandon. He's your brother. Funny, I said. You didn't say that when you gave him the house and laughed at me holding a worthless piece of paper. That was different. No, it wasn't. Nathan's face turned red. This is crazy. I'll go to court. You can try, I said, pulling out a folder from my car. But you signed the papers when you asked Dad to transfer ownership. He didn't do it. Instead, he sold the property. And now I own it. Legally. Clean. Nathan snatched the folder, scanned the papers, and looked like he wanted to scream. His eyes filled with tears, frustrated, bitter, useless tears. You're doing this just to hurt us. No, I said. I'm doing this to teach you. Dad stepped in front of me. Brandon, listen. You made your point. You won. You proved yourself. Let's talk about this like family. I looked him in the eye. You had your chance to treat me like family. Now, I'm just the guy who holds the deed to your front door. He flinched. I could see it. The way those words hit him. Don't make us leave, he said finally. Quiet. Almost broken. I thought about it. Thought about all the nights I worked double shifts while Nathan partied. All the Christmases I spent alone. The birthdays they forgot. The time Dad told a neighbor, Nathan's the smart one. Brandon's just steady. I let the silence stretch. Then I said, you have 30 days. And I left them there, standing in the rain, holding the mess they made. But the story wasn't over. Oh no. Because while they scrambled to figure out what to do next, I had one final move. The last chapter in my quiet revenge. A week later, Nathan packed his things and moved into a cheap rental on the edge of town. He told everyone he was downsizing to save money. No one believed him. Word was spreading about the mysterious new property owner buying up everything. Then I announced a charity gala in Rydell Hills. Invitations sent to every local leader, business owner, and even old friends. I made sure Dad got one. Fancy gold lettering, black envelope. The event was hosted at my Deerbrush Hollow estate. Most people had never seen the place. The rumors about who owned it were all over town. No one knew. The night of the gala, I stood at the top of the staircase inside the grand entrance, dressed in a clean black suit, watching guests pour in. Old teachers. Mechanics I used to work with. People who'd laughed at me. People who'd ignored me. Dad showed up, confused, walking in slow like he'd stepped into another world. Nathan came too, dressed in a jacket too tight for him, eyes darting nervously. Then I walked down the stairs. Everyone turned, gasps, whispers. Dad's face went white. You? He said. I nodded. Me. Nathan looked like he'd seen a ghost. You own all of this? Dad asked. Yes. The music faded. I stepped onto the small stage. And I spoke. My name is Brandon. Some of you know me as the quiet kid who used to fix cars and mop floors. But a few months ago, I won the lottery. $244 million. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was scared, but because I wanted to see what people do when they think you have nothing. The crowd was dead silent. I watched who showed kindness, who offered help, who ignored me, who used me. And now that I have something, I plan to use it well, not for revenge, but for rebuilding this town, for giving others the chances I never got. People clapped. Some even cheered. But Dad, Nathan, they didn't move. After the speech, I walked off stage and right past them. Dad reached out, hand trembling. "Brandon," he said, "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to live with it." Nathan tried to follow me. "Brandon, wait." I stopped, turned to him. "I waited for you to respect me, for Dad to see me, for years. Now, you can wait." And I walked away, not angry, not bitter, just satisfied. Because the best revenge isn't fire or fury. It's being the one they never saw coming. And never forget,